the fact that you've actually lived and caused a species to be saved from extinction is a noble legacy and one that people can be proud of. And of course, here in Australia, we have Steve Irwin, who I think has motivated probably more children around the world to become conservationists than anybody else I know. And when it comes to education, you know, there's no match. Even Jacques Cousteau didn't have that kind of influence, because Steve knew that his audience had to be children, because children are what changes the world. And he knew that. And of course, you know, Terry and Bindi and Robert are carrying that on. And that is really what is changing, because I'm finding more and more children all the time who are coming up and saying, you know, yeah, they're not asking what they're going to do, they're telling us what they are going to do. And that's really, really, really gratifying, you know, because most adults feel powerless. They feel that they can't do anything. And what we try to do is motivate people to understand that they can make a difference. You know, a few years ago, I got a call from a guy in Scotland, and he said, they're killing gray seals up here in the Orkney Islands. What are you going to do about it? I said, I don't know, on the west coast of North America, what are you going to do about it? He said, well, what can I do about it? So anyway, we talked to him and everything, and he got a group of Scottish volunteers, and he went up to the Orkneys, and they stood on the beach when the sealers landed, and they actually took my words of advice, literally, and they walked up and started pulling the rifles out of the hands of sealers and throwing them in the water and getting into a lot of trouble and getting arrested, and but creating so much publicity that we've raised enough money to buy that island, and it's now a seal sanctuary. So that was done by one man. And that was all accomplished by one man who said, well, what can I do? And, you know, the fact is each and every one of us has the ability to change the world. And we just need to know that, you know, that we have the power to do that. Because unfortunately in our society, we're always told, well, if you want to change the world, you can vote, you know, or you can sign a petition. We're not used to people actually intervening directly, taking it into their own hands. And fortunately, we've been able to do that over the years and do it in a responsible manner. And when I say responsible, we have to do what we do, making sure that we don't injure anybody. And it's very, very difficult. The Japanese down there are trying to kill us. They are literally trying to kill us. And if they do, if they injure or kill us, their government will justify and defend it. We have to do what we do, making sure we don't hurt them, knowing that our governments are going to condemn us for whatever we do, because our governments don't like to be shown up. And we're in fact doing the job that they refuse to do. So I'm quite confident that this year we'll be able to finish this war to save the whales. And Whale Wars as a show has been incredibly successful. I knew it would be, because when I went to sell the show, I went to all the networks, and Animal Planet went for it, but I said to each and every one of these networks, you know, the biggest show on Discovery right now is a bunch of guys who are going out into a remote part of the Bering Sea and catching crabs. Deadliest catch. And I said, that's all they're doing, is catching crabs. I said, we'll take men and women from around the world to a far more remote area, far rougher oceans, to save whales, and we'll throw in some penguins and some icebergs. It's got to be more compelling than catching crabs. And they went for it, and it's now the highest rated show on Animal Planet. So that has gotten us a lot of support. So I'm really quite confident that this is going to be the year that's going to turn things around. If it isn't, we will be back again next year, because we cannot retreat from this. We cannot surrender from this. We got to keep the pressure on until we win. And right after this campaign, we'll be taking our ships to the Mediterranean to defend the bluefin tuna. The tuna will be extinct within 5 years unless we intervene. And Japan, the Mitsubishi Corporation in Japan is building giant refrigerated warehouses to stuff as much bluefin tuna in it as they possibly can. The reason being is they're literally investing in extinction. They want that fish to go extinct. The reason being, it's a $250,000 fish right now. That's how much one of those things goes for on the Japanese fish market. But if there's no more, and you're sitting on tens of thousands of them in the warehouse, you've got $1 million fish. And they'll be able to set the price for it. That's what they're aiming for. So what we really actually have is people who are literally investing in the extinction of species, because there's a lot of money to be made from it. The bluefin tuna, the most magnificent fish in the ocean, a warm-blooded creature that can swim at 70 miles an hour. You know, you can go from Nova Scotia to Africa in 2 weeks. I mean, the most incredible fish in the ocean, and they want to wipe it out. And one of the reasons that we promote veganism on the ships is not for animal rights reasons, but for environmental conservation reasons, is that people just are not aware of the connections on this. Do you know that the biggest aquatic predator on the planet right now is the pig? Pigs are eating more fish than all the world's sharks put together, because 35% of all the fish removed from the ocean is turned into fish meal and fed to livestock. Albatross and puffins are starving because we're taking the sand eels and the fish that they eat and grinding them up into fish meal to feed factory farm chickens in Europe. Chickens are eating more fish than albatross and puffins. Domestic house cats are eating more tuna than all the world's seals put together. And people are not aware of these connections. And they say, well, you know, this is farm-raised fish. We're going to have a farm-raised salmon here, so we're part of the solution. No. To raise one salmon on a fish farm takes 70 fish caught from the ocean to raise and feed it, and to feed and raise it. And, of course, since salmon, by the way, get their red flesh from the fact that they feed on krill in the deep seas, farm-raised salmon don't have that color of flesh. They have a dirty white flesh. Nobody's going to buy that, so what they do is they put dye in the food pellets to dye their flesh that color, and they fill it all full of antibiotics and hormones and everything else. Most unhealthy fish on the market. And, but we're encouraging more and more people to eat fish, when in fact the problem is that we're running out of fish, and the oceans are dying. There's simply not enough fish in the oceans to continue to feed an ever-expanding population of human beings. And what that means is that if the fish disappear, the oceans die. If the oceans die, civilization collapses, and we all die. That is the connection. Last year, the Fox network actually criticized me and said that I don't like people, which is true. But they said that I thought that worms were more important than people, and how could I possibly say something so horrible? And they called me up, and I did an interview, and they said, did you say that worms were more important than people? I said, yes. And they said, well, how do you justify that? I said, very simple. Worms can live on the earth without people. People cannot live on the earth without worms. Ecologically speaking, we need them. They don't need us. Therefore, ecologically speaking, they're more important than we are. As are honeybees and beetles and ants and 1,000 other species that if without them, if they were to disappear, we would not be able to survive. So that's the thing that we have to understand, is that we have to live in harmony with all of these other species. Because if we don't, then we're going to take one of them out too many, and the whole thing is going to crash down, and we will be responsible for driving our own species into extinction. We're not very smart ecologically. We might think that we're all high and mighty. In fact, we're just a bunch of overly conceited apes who are divine legends in our own mind. But the fact is that we don't know that much. And just to finish off, one whaler in Norway said, but Watson, you say that whales are more intelligent than people. This is a stupid thing to say. How could you say something so stupid? And I said, well, George, I measure intelligence by the ability to live in harmony with the natural world. And by that criteria, whales are far more intelligent than people are. And he said, well, by that criteria, cockroaches are more intelligent than people. I said, George, you're beginning to understand what I'm trying to tell you. And the fact is, we have a lot to learn, even from cockroaches and that. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you all for coming. And Sue and Trevor, I have a picture here for you. And thank you for all of your support. Oh, here. Come down. So thank you all for everything you've done for us with Tangaluma and everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
And thank you, Terry and Bindi and Robert, for coming here tonight. And we're really, really proud the fact that we have Steve Irwin's name on our ship. And I thought it was really funny last year when Japan tried to say that we couldn't, wanted Australia to close the ports to us and would not let us back in. I said, nah, that's not going to happen. There is no way that Australia is going to refuse a ship named the Steve Irwin to come into Australia. So, and in fact, that proved to be the case. So, thank you.